Hello everyone, welcome to the class of MSc2 in Microbiology for the subject MBTE 32 Bioremediation and Biomass Utilization. This is a choice based optional theory paper. We have already started with the topic biomass utilization. Our topic for today is isolation of prokaryotic cellulase genes. Learning objectives. After watching this video, the students should be able to answer questions on isolation of prokaryotic genes from cellulitic bacteria. They should also be able to answer questions on how recombinant DNA technology increases the efficiency of cellulase activity and the different screening methods utilized to obtain recombinants. Before we move on to our next topic, let us revise in brief of what we learned in the previous video. So in the previous video, we basically talked about different types of cellulases which are present in either bacteria or fungi. So the cellulases can be divided into four major groups. The first one being endoglucanases. Endoglucanases are the enzymes which bring about hydrolysis of beta-1,4 linkage between adjacent glucose molecules. These endoglucanases are known to hydrolyze the cellulose from within the amorphous region of the cellulose polymer. Due to this, it breaks the chain in the middle. The next enzyme belonging to the cellulase family is exoglucanases. Exoglucanases degrade nicked cellulose chains from the non-reducing ends which are obtained after the action of the endoglucanases. Due to this, glucose, cellobiose and cellotriose are produced. The next enzyme in the family of cellulase is cellobiohydrolase. The cellobiohydrolases are mainly found in the cellulolytic funguses. Cellobiohydrolases have the capacity to remove around 10 or more glucose residue from the non-reducing ends of the cellulose molecule at the same time. The last enzyme in the cellulase family is the beta-glucosidase or cellobiase. The main action of this enzyme is to convert di or trisaccharides into monosaccharides, that is, converting cellobiose or cellotriose into monosaccharide unit glucose. Then we also studied the action with the help of this diagram. As you can see, the cellulose is composed of two regions, crystalline and amorphous. The endoglucanases act on the amorphous region, creating nicks. These non-reducing ends are then further acted upon by exoglucanases, generating either cellobiose, cellotriose or long chain of glucose. By the enzyme glucosidase, all the three components can be converted into glucose. So the breakdown of cellulose by microorganisms that produce various components of cellulose is very often quite slow and mostly incomplete. So genetic engineering strategies have been adapted for obtaining more effective cellulase enzyme. For this purpose, genes coding for individual enzymatic functions of cellulase activity have been isolated from both prokaryotic and eukaryotic organisms. Let us move on to the genetic engineering strategies adapted for isolation of the prokaryotic cellulase genes. So, the prokaryotic endoglucanase genes need to be cloned by the following identification techniques. So, the step 1 is to isolate the gene of interest. In our case, we need to isolate or clone a cellulase gene. This cellulase gene can be obtained from a number of organisms such as rumen of ruminants like cows, compost, soil, leaf litter, decaying wood, and microorganisms are the main sources of the prokaryotic cellulase gene. The second step is obtaining a clone bank of DNA from a cellulolytic prokaryote. So for this purpose, you need to isolate the cellulolytic prokaryotic organism, isolate its chromosomal DNA. After isolation, with the help of either sonication or enzymatic action, we obtain fragments of this chromosomal DNA. These fragments of DNA are then mixed and ligated with vectors. The vectors are then transformed into the E. coli gene library. The gene library thus obtained is then screened for appropriate cellulase genes. The sequence of cellulase genes can be obtained from either various databases, or one can use sole source of carbon in selective minimal media to isolate particular recombinants containing cellulase genes. So this diagram shows you have obtained organisms which has the cellulase gene present in the recombinant. So as we saw in the second step, the clone bank of DNA for cellulolytic bacteria or prokaryotes is constructed and transformed into E. coli. The next step is that the host cells are grown overnight on a solid medium which is known to contain a selective antibiotic. One can use selective antibiotics such as ampicillin. So as you can see, this is a transformed bacteria which is known to contain cellulolytic prokaryotic genes or cellulase genes. These host cells are then grown into the solid medium. For this, we basically grow the colonies on a solid medium containing a cellulolytic bacteria. After this, the colonies are overlaid with agar containing carboxymethyl cellulase. Carboxymethyl cellulase is abbreviated as CMC. This carboxymethyl cellulose is a soluble derivative of cellulose, and the Petri plates containing this particular CMC is incubated at 37 degrees Celsius for several hours. As you can see, this is agar containing CMC. This agar is overlaid on the bacterial colonies which were obtained on selective medium containing an antibiotic and incubated at 37 degrees Celsius. So the CMC molecules present in the immediate vicinity or neighborhood of the colonies which synthesize and secrete an endoglucanases are partially digested. So the transformants will be able to synthesize but not secrete the cloned endoglucanases. Due to this, they do not degrade the substrate because the cellulose molecule is very large to enter inside the cell. Digested regions of the CMC are visualized by first flooding the Petri plate with a solution of the dye Congo red. After flooding the plate with Congo red, the next step is to wash the plate with a solution of sodium chloride. Congo red selectively binds to high molecular weight cellulose chains. Due to this binding of Congo red to high molecular weight cellulose chain, one sees appearance of red colors in the colonies. But on the contrary, if the binding is weak, that is, it binds weakly to the low molecular polysaccharides, it produces a yellow colored hue. So this is a diagram adapted from Gleek for detection of E. coli clone expressing a bacterial endoglucanases gene. The yellow hue or the yellow halo around the bacterial colony shows the presence of a clone which is positive, that is, it degrades the soluble cellulose, that is CMC, in the medium which is surrounding the area of the clone because it has the capability to secrete endoglucanases. So as we saw in the previous slide, sodium chloride treatment will basically stabilize the binding of the dye Congo red with CMC. The bacterial colonies may produce a secreted endoglucanase. Because it has produced a secreted endoglucanase, it is surrounded by a yellow halo, whereas the areas where CMC has not been degraded is shown in red color. This technique is used to isolate the endoglucanase gene from a number of bacteria such as Streptomyces, Clostridium, Thermoaerobacter, Thermanomonospora, Erwinia, Pseudomonas, Cellulomonas, Fibrobacter and different Bacillus species. It is also obtained from Celovibrio and Ruminococcus as well. As of now, no convenient plate assay is available to detect cells with a cloned exoglucanase genes. For this, mainly immunological screening is used. This screening technique can be used to pick out recombinant clones expressing the exoglucanase gene. Although this approach requires specific antibodies which are directed against a target protein, the protein of interest need not be secreted in order to get detected. So the cytoplasmic proteins are transformed to a nylon or nitrocellulose membrane for the immunological testing which needs to be carried out. The recombinant cells obtained are then lysed in situ by exposure to chloroform vapors. In these tests, replica plating is mainly used. Replica plating ensures that viable cells are available for further propagation and use. So the step 1 in prokaryotic beta glycosidase gene isolation is that the prokaryotic beta glucosidase genes need to be isolated and transformed into a clone bank from a beta galactosidase producing microorganisms and transformed into E. coli. The step 2 is selecting of transformants which can grow on a minimal media with cellobiose as the sole source of carbon. Alternatively, the clones expressing beta galactosidase activity can be detected with the help of a chromogenic substrate. In this case, the chromogenic substrate used is 5-bromo 4-chloro 3-indole beta D glucopyranoside. This compound is also known as BCIP. This BCIP is included in the plating medium or with McConkey's or cellobiose agar. If beta glycosidase enzyme is present, the colonies will turn red due to the presence of the chromogenic substrate BCIP in the medium. So again, for isolating the beta glucosidase gene, one needs to isolate the chromosomal DNA and fragment it to obtain smaller fragments. These fragments are again cloned into vectors, mixed and ligated to obtain recombinants. They are transformed into the E. coli cells, and the gene library for this beta galactosidase is constructed. The gene library is then screened for the beta galactosidase gene by growing it on a selective media which will contain cellobiose as the sole source of carbon. So on plates, transformants are obtained which will probably have the gene for beta glucanases. Clones expressing the BICP or XGAL in presence of beta galactosidase get cleaved into bromochloro indole, which is deep blue in color, and galactose So bacteria from the ligated plates on media with BICP are detected due to change in color. These are the references. The main reference used for this is Molecular Biotechnology by B.R. Glick. Thank you so much.